All right, welcome back to another special episode of Whiff. We want to break down the newest Marvel movie / Disney Plus slate for you guys. It was obviously a huge announcement from the president of the company, Kevin Feige, telling us about basically all the upcoming projects. We have fucking camera guy Schwid today with us instead of Wurch.
Thank you.
Got producer Doodle as always on deck. Thank you again to Live from the Couch Studios. We love it in here. Look at the lighting; it's beautiful. Schwid, that mustache, dude, looking absolutely filth. All right. Well, obviously, the first of these slated movies, or we'll say series and movies, has already released on Disney Plus last Friday. Schwid and I actually had the chance to check it out, so we can give you a quick rundown on that. Actually, not a lot happened. It was WandaVision, obviously a series following after Endgame, Marvel's Avengers Endgame. We believe that so far what we can tell is that Wanda herself, the Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth
is in some kind of psychedelic trance or whatever the case may be. And that's the annoying, I won't say annoying part, but is a very big thing about that is that it's the mystery. There's so much mystery to it.
It is probably one of Marvel's most ambitious projects, we'll say, because it is.
Yeah.
It's what the premise of this show is that we believe Wanda has potentially created in her own mind a what looks to be like a perfect world for her and Vision, who died in Avengers Infinity War. And she seems to be trapped in some sort of reality where she's in some sort of like 1950s sitcom reality, and she's like in like the perfect.
She's in the Brady Bunch,
the American Dream Village. It's a black and white TV show. Mm-hmm. And as each episode progresses, she seems to allow the timeline to go on
to move up every decade.
Every decade or so. So like for the first two episodes, she's gone through like basically like a 1950s style,
we're talking like
black and white TV
Dick
show,
Van Dyke show, Lucy Liu, all that kind of stuff. Or Lucy Show, I should say. It's getting real like, and that's pretty much what we got, but with a couple little cheeky Easter eggs, which is just what Marvel's absolutely known for. Like interesting start, but I think
what we can tell from the premise is that Vision, as a computer system, as like a cyborg, realizes that something's going wrong here, but he hasn't really worked out what exactly is. And it seems that Wanda herself has some sort of control over this reality, and that she is kind of morphing it to her own version of her, I guess, maybe like her perfect life, or like where to assume
what
that
she would have grown up watching.
Yeah, so the idea is it seems like she must have grown up watching these 1950s and 60s sitcoms in Sokovia, and that this is her envisioned
pun intended
envisioned perfect reality, and that it seems that at the end of each episode it's shown that this reality that she may be trapped in is actually being broadcasted onto TV networks, and like obviously the people who know her in the Avengers team must have caught on to the fact that she's potentially disappeared, or maybe she's trapped in some sort of like suspended animation, and that her mind and reality is actually taking place on this weird TV show that continuously evolves each week,
which could slowly start to explain where the multiverse is going to go.
Supposedly this is going to tie directly into Doctor Strange 2, which is titled The Multiverse of Madness.
So
and
potentially we're talking Doctor Strange at the very last episode being like, what's up? Like, gonna need you.
Or he might interfere. I mean, he might intervene and potentially pull her out of this reality. But
that could be another. Yeah, that's a good call.
In my opinion, it looks like this show has been directed in a way which needs to be binged. Right, so they've given us 2 episodes. There's not a lot that happens.
We want more.
It's not filmed in one of those ways where each episode is its own story, and like it leads you into the next episode, and you're already dying to know what happens next on like Game of Thrones level. Obviously a lot of TV shows have done it. This one almost is like it's filmed in a way that it's not episodic weekly. Like
it's not leaving you on a cliffhanger or anything that. It's just like we said. There's a lot of little Easter eggs. The main one being Sword.
At the end there, it seems that the Sword Agency, which was obviously shown at the end of Captain Marvel, and it shows that obviously Nick Fury is up in a
space station
of some sort with the Kree, which I assume must be a Kree space station, and he's up there, like obviously observing Earth, and that his body or his double on Earth is actually a Kree agent. I think isn't it Talos himself from Captain Marvel? I believe he is actually that
would make sense.
Standing in for Nick Fury on Earth at this point in time, and the real Nick Fury is actually in some fucking space station. Yeah,
he's on vacation.
So it is interesting. As I said, these are all tying in together. We've only seen the first 2 episodes. I really hope they fucking release 2 episodes a week, because those first 2 episodes were not exactly
I really hope they just
groundbreaking stuff. So, you know, I look forward to it. As a Marvel fan, I'm excited, but I would say for any casual viewer, the first 2 episodes give you fuck all.
One of those shows that really needs to be binged, and I think that's just, you know, Disney Plus trying to be like, hey,
if you're watching this as well, like, I would say that you don't actually have to keep up with this the same way that we will. I believe that maybe once this show is finished in maybe 5-6 weeks potentially, watch it all in one go. I don't know if this is one of those ones where you need, like Mandalorian, where you need to kind of sit and fucking you need to tune in each week and catch this episode, like.
But also, you know, we're starting off in the 50s, 60s TV show sort of thing. Like,
and they do it really well too.
My main curiosity is where, like, it's going to go for the next. Like, you know, we're going to have 80s and 90s, but then, you know, what kind of show they're going to do? Are they going to do like a real Office kind of thing? Like, I think there was real funny.
The style of the show itself does evolve as well. Like when it goes into the 60s, it's taking its own, like, it's taking on the tropes and the life of the 1960s shows were. And then obviously I think the last episode ended up in the 70s, so they warped this last episode into like Technicolor, so color, all of this color is very vibrant, colored, you know, backgrounds and furniture and wallpapers and stuff like that. So we'll see. It has gone into color finally, but towards the end of the actual show, are we going to be looking at, you know, some, how do I explain it, like the way the Office is set up in mockumentary? Are they going to do something like really cool? And be funny if, you know, James Spader makes a cheeky we'll see how far into it goes. That'd be sick. So what did we say? That ties into Doctor Strange. We can talk a little bit about that. Doctor Strange, the Multiverse of Madness. It's in the title. All of what you need to know is in the title. Multiverse
it's gonna be
of Madness. So we have obviously Benedict Cumberbatch reprising his role. We've got Rachel McAdams coming back. Bay. Supposedly as well, like, we only know so much about this. There's no trailer yet. We only know that it's Doctor Strange branching out into multiverses.
We know
it could be him pairing up what the damage that potentially happened with the whole Infinity War thing. And like obviously
this was the one that was supposed to be horror themed, though, wasn't it? It was supposed to be Scott Derrickson, who we know, you know, made one of the scariest movies ever.
He directed the original Doctor Strange, and yes, as you said, Sinister, which to me is one of the best horror movies of the last 10 years, in my opinion.
Literal poo, yeah. Now the actual mantle's been passed off to Sam Raimi, and we know that Sam Raimi has had some history with horror movies.
Well, also,
you know, a couple of handfuls.
The Marvel movies too. I mean, he directed the first 3 Spider-Man movies that everyone obviously knows. The ones with
Tobey Maguire.
I was going to say Peter Parker. Tobey Maguire.
Yes, Peter Parker is part of it.
So we have.
So there is a lot
of possibilities with this one.
Yeah, and then, you know, the rumors were the main antagonist, I should say, is Nightmare.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a lot of, like, probably similar to what Wanda's doing right now, and just some kind of psychedelic trance or something like that, trying to fight his way out of it.
That is very Doctor Strange-y. The word is correct. Psychedelic, as you said. Like, very.
Oh, dude.
After we got. Obviously, Doctor Strange was like.
We got the acid trip of Doctor Strange 1, yeah.
But I think see what we saw with Taika Waititi's Thor Ragnarok have really broadened the spectrum for, as you said, the word psychedelic, the kind of. You know, the kind of realities and the kind of
it's not just your clear black and not black and white, but like your real clear cut superhero you know, filter and all that kind of stuff in the camera. They're actually expanding their color palette. They're expanding just the universe of it, and obviously again in the title, Multiverse of Madness
too as well. Like, I've really found that Doctor Strange in his own movie was very limited, despite the fact they were trying to branch out into this whole, like, he's like magic and there's all these extra realities and he's like this kind of universal protector. until we saw him in Infinity War and at the end of, I guess, Endgame, was where you really saw the extent of his power once he's mastered, his abilities. And I think this show is really going to be a huge step up from the first one, I think.
100%.
The first one was basically just firecracker kung fu with some fun kind of Inception-like shots, but there wasn't a huge amount to it, if be honest. This one sounds like it's going to be massive.
Well, this one's going to be a very pivotal point for the rest of the MCU. Yep. It's going to set up...
Well, as we can lead into, Spider-Man
3.
What is it? 3 from home or something? What do we say? Spider-Man, coming.
Spider-Man home run.
Something home.
There's multiple. Oh, actually, I think
Spider-Man
there was
home
one.
Alone or some shit. Like, it's going to be something that has the word home in it.
Yeah.
Now, this is, I don't know about you guys, maybe my most anticipated movie of this phase.
100%. When
you hear that they obviously, like, the cliffhanger that was Spider-Man Far From Home, and that his identity has been revealed by Mysterio. We're looking at a potential
a reset of some kind.
Some sort of like huge generational film here, because after the success that the Spider-Verse movie had, the animated movie was probably one of the most successful Marvel or Spider-Man properties that has actually been released in the last ever. I think that Marvel and Sony have paired up and have really put an idea forth, which is basically a universe, like a Spider-Verse movie, but in live action.
They're literally, it's all in. All the chips on the table. There's going to be so much that they can actually settle with this as well. They're going to be able to bring your boy Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield back in as the OG.
Is that not 100% confirmed yet? It's not, but... What has been confirmed is that there's villains from these other Spider-Man movies that are reprising their role. So you have Jamie Foxx returning as Electro. Was he anyone's favorite Spider-Man villain? No. But knowing that he could be redone in the MCU in like an alternate version, potentially, is a big deal. He's a great actor. And if he's signed back on to do this role, it means they've probably given him a script that has really drawn his attention. We also have Alfred Molina returning as Doc Ock. I've heard rumors.
Everyone's
we've heard that Mary Jane. What's her name? Kirsten Dunst is returning as Mary Jane.
Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy.
Supposedly as well, the latest rumor for this flick as well is that Charlie Cox's Daredevil from the Netflix series is actually going to be reprising his role for the first time on the big screen as Daredevil. Itself. Now, those genres do not line up. Like, obviously, Daredevil was very violent and very, like, serious, like a crime thriller series. And Spider-Man is very PG. But their characters are so deeply intertwined with one another in the comics. He's potentially going to need a lawyer, which we know, like a superhero lawyer, to really vouch on his half. As he's probably going to go into a huge legal dispute about his identity and,
So much, but let's just bring all this together. Everyone is coming back from just about every Spider-Man
I've heard movie. As well that apparently Willem Dafoe might reprise his role as Green Goblin.
That's a big one.
And we know that obviously Willem Dafoe and Alfred Molina's Doc Ock died. So these could potentially be either alternate versions or the same versions returning right before the point of their death.
Now, my 2 cents in this is that it's going to be very small cameos. I reckon it's going to be like
that, it's going to be the names of those actors. They don't sign on for 5-minute cameos. Those are the kind of people who sign on for like a big portion of the film. But it's going
to be so hard to actually get those guys all into the one movie and try and still give Tom Holland some screen time as well. So my guess is that it's going to be like Doctor Strange maybe open up some portal being like, this is one Spider-Man in one world. Kind of like the intro for Spider-Verse itself.
Yep.
You're going to have that intro of them actually, being Spider-Man, facing off against those villains and being like, so this is what I do. Comes back in.
There's a potential that they're going to go Sinister Six route. Yeah. You have Doc Ock. We have Electro. We have Vulture. We have Morbius.
With the villains, most likely that's going to be the case with that. Which will be
and it might be
sick.
3 Spider-Men or even potentially more. They could have Spider-Gwen. They could have Spider-Ham. You know what I mean? As I said, Multiverse of Madness could show all sorts of, like when we saw Guardians of the Galaxy start showing little cameos of like Howard the Duck. that like characters are really weird and wacky.
Another good example, very quick cameo, things like how Guardians will very quickly show a cameo, like
like the Watchers and like
beaming through space sort of thing. Like, and that's all it really takes for an appearance like that. So that might be the case for some of these characters, but then also we might have, like you said, the Sinister Six versus the 3 live action Spider-Mans that we all sort of know and love. So this is just going to be,
I believe there's already photos of Tobey Maguire going to Marvel Studios to go get fitted for costume fitting. So that's almost totally confirmed that he will return as Spider-Man in some form.
So whether he's the one that's actually
that's probably one of the biggest, I'd say some of the biggest news of that. Like that movie has endless possibilities.
Yeah, but we could go on an absolute tangent about that. Yeah, but yeah, let's wrap it up.
We'll reprise our, our thoughts on this once they put a trailer out and once we have a little bit more information. I think, as we said, Doctor Strange ties into that as well. Excuse me. But we have back to Disney Plus, which I think is following straight after WandaVision finishes, is Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yep.
It's looking very like what we saw in like Civil War / Winter Soldier style film.
Very
like it's
spy style.
Spy espionage kind of like.
Work for the government sort of thing.
I'm excited for this because it's like, what do you do with the mantle of Captain America? Someone who's like a symbol of this generation, someone 100%. Who helped aid in the defeat of Thanos and in the taking down of Hydra and all that sort of stuff. Like
literally the face of America.
Yeah, it's not just like the Falcon and Winter Soldier can just step into that role. You know what I mean? There's a lot of pressure that comes with being Captain America. There's a lot of, there's a lot riding on this position, and there's a lot. The world is kind of moving on without Cap, and
even though it was shown in the end of Endgame that Cap essentially passes the mantle to Falcon,
I think he's struggling with that accepting
there'll be
that.
So much of
but he also gives
series will show. It'll show Falcon actually accepting the fact that he's going to be the new Cap, and it's going to be awesome. It's going to be Bucky, still trying to be there for him as.
I mean, but Bucky is also in the comics being Captain America too, so it could be
potentially so it could be just
I believe that we have confirmation that Zemo is like the main protagonist of this series. So like he is returning again from Civil War in his comic accurate costume. I'm told.
The old purple beanie.
Yeah, I think it looks cool though. So that could be interesting. We have Wyatt Russell confirmed as the US agent, we believe, who's meant to be someone who's taking over the role of Captain America, officially, unofficially for the government. Obviously, we have.
So whether there's going to be like an ally or an enemy towards Falcon and Winter Soldier, that'll be the main interesting thing.
Yep, and we also
he's got a lot of good potential. I do like Wyatt Russell.
I like
Kurt Russell's son.
I would be interested to see because obviously the US agent does not turn out to be a good guy in the comics.
There you go.
And we also have, what did we say, Zemo as well is going to be returning as probably the main protagonist, someone who's someone from Civil War who is pulling all the strings behind the scenes. I can imagine him over a 6 to 8 episode run being very intricate.
I just hope they can do him justice this time because
I was not
with Civil War it's kind of just him making a couple of phone calls and then somehow all the the superheroes started fighting. So
he was not my favorite part of Civil War. We'll say
he's actually given a lot more credibility, and
Daniel Bruhl is a great actor too.
He's a fantastic actor.
He's convincing as someone.
So this might be his actual his big role that he takes on and just smashes it for this series because this series was probably the one I was most keen for.
I'm very excited for this one. The three that was
announced between WandaVision, Winter Soldier, and Loki.
As I said, if it's like an 45 to 50 minute 8 episodes of basically what we had for the Winter Soldier or Civil War, I'm sold.
You give
it. Hell yeah. That's about all we probably know about the show so far. I don't know too much about the plot or what they're focusing on. I know for a fact that the shield that Cap gives him is actually different, and it looks like there's all these little extra little pieces on the shield that might actually contain some information inside it. He might open it up somehow.
That also goes into, which we can bring up, the fact that Chris Evans has been given another contract for Marvel. He's going to return.
I do think it's going to be very cameo
Whether it's
based.
going to be cameos, very small roles, or the thing that everyone is begging for is just the Disney Plus series of him returning the Infinity Stone.
Yes, of course.
Give me that, like, please.
Return to Infinity, dude. Like, let's have it
to Infinity and beyond.
And also, and speaking of,
he's
been cast as
Buzz
like
Lightyear.
a live or animated version of Buzz Lightyear, but meant to be the show or like the series in which the toy was based on, which from what I've heard.
That's gonna be cool. Like, you remember the old Star Command Buzz Lightyear TV series back in the day?
Had it on video, Dad.
So good.
Yeah, loved it.
So good.
I like him as the casting.
So Buzz Lightyear's story. Give me that.
Anyway, back to
Marvel.
MCU. So after that, we have something that we were meant to get of fucking March last year, Black Widow, the movie.
Oh.
So it's
goddamn
now it is rescheduled for probably about the 10th time for the, what is that? The 7th of May this year. So not, I don't know, a couple of months away. Hopefully we can actually get it in theaters. I think in Melbourne we're pretty well off for COVID at the moment, so we should probably get that as a full theatrical release.
Now the thing to bring up right now is that if it somewhat does get delayed another time, thanks to fucking COVID, do you reckon they'll just put it straight to Disney Plus? I think they should.
It just depends
they
how
owe the fans that much.
This is one of those ones that is actually predicated around COVID. Like, it actually is, like, what Marvel Studios want is to release it to the highest and like the most broad audience. And if too many countries are locked down, they're not going to release it. And as you said, it might just go straight to Disney Plus.
Yeah,
like they did with Mulan.
And that's just going to be their their what they need to do for the fans. That's what they just need to do.
We have to see it because it could be.
But they also just want the money. But it's also
it could tie directly into this, Falcon and Winter Soldier show. So like, how much longer are you going to push it past that? It's a year late. So we're getting Falcon and Winter Soldier before we're going to get. We're going to get this movie, and yet Falcon, like, this movie was meant to come out a year ago. We were meant to have all this information, and this story was already meant to be told.
Is in between
all the figurines,
Civil War and Infinity War.
All the figurines have already been released, like a year ago, and no one knows what to do with these. It's one of the worst sold lines of figures because no one's seen the fucking movie, so they don't know what these characters are. So they have all these figurines sitting on their shelves with nothing. They're just concepts. Hey, all right, I'm just saying, like, figures for the Marvel Universe is a big deal. So
it also gives away a lot of the plot lines. And there's nothing to give away, which is probably, it's a good thing because this is just going to be a good,
as you said, spy,
a good prequel,
espionage.
just a good story told. And my main guess is that it's going to be Black Widow passing on the mantle to her younger sister, played by
so
Florence
she can
Pugh.
continue after the fact that obviously Black Widow died.
Like, Florence is a fantastic actress. She was in Midsummer, which is a very full-on
interesting film
movie. But yeah, I reckon it's going to be really cool to tie her, and like, obviously, Black Widow dies at the end of Infinity War, or middle.
Well, as you said, like, it's somewhere in between Civil War, so post Civil War, pre Infinity War. So there was a period of time there, as you said, where she ends up with the blonde hair.
This movie will 100% explain all that.
I think there's shots of her in the trailer where she has sort of like transitioning hair, isn't it?
Yeah. So it makes you wonder if there's a real big reasoning for that, or if it's just kind of like she's gone through a phase and has to dye her hair.
It's interesting to see as well. I'm going to assume it's got to do with being a spy. Mostly.
Yeah, she has to go like fully undercover or something like that.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's like she just decided to dye her hair blonde. Because
another thing with that is like, who is Taskmaster going to be? Is it going to be someone who's actually like known in the MCU, or is it just going to be,
Oh, we have as well. David Harbour's going to be a character that she apparently has to break out of some sort of like Russian prison camp. He's kind of like a discount Captain America from Russia, like a
and he hasn't worn the suit for a while.
Yeah,
he's got to chuck it back on. He's it's like Baymax trying to fit into the into his suit, like squeeze himself in.
Mr. Incredible trying to jump back into the old blue and black.
That too.
Uniform. As I said, like I love the trailer to this. I'm not gonna lie, I'm actually super excited for this. I'm heartbroken that we haven't gotten
definite Winter Soldier / Civil War vibes. So if we get a smidgen of that kind of theme of that movie, I'll be happy for it. But that's the thing, we've been waiting a year for this movie. Budapest though, dude. Oh my god,
there's a storyline there.
No, it's not gonna happen. Like,
they could show
they have just
maybe we could just get our own spin-off show of Budapest though. Who knows, they could just do like the Budapest Files or something later on in the slate.
They cannot do that like in a small way. Budapest needs to be done in a full movie.
Do you think this has any ties to the Hawkeye show?
With the Budapest? They mentioned it again in Endgame. How dare they? If they're not going to actually follow it up.
We'll move on. That's, as I said, that's probably, what is that? The first like live action film that we can look forward to this year in the movies.
Yeah, it's just
hopefully
it gives us some kind of relief. From far from home.
This is one of those shows that was like, when you hear the concept and the idea, it just immediately intrigues you. They set this up in Endgame. It's the Loki TV show, and it is following Loki, who in an alternate reality escaped from the Avengers capture after Avengers 1, when he was captured and taken to Asgard to be imprisoned. They had an alternate reality where they time traveled. They botched what was it? What did they go back for again? Were they trying to steal what?
The
Tesseract?
Yeah, Tesseract.
They were. So they botched that,
and he takes the Tesseract.
So Loki escapes with the Tesseract, and I believe he crash lands what looks like in a shot where he ends up in like a desert. Looks like when Tony Stark crash lands in the armor. But so from what I've heard, he is picked up by some sort of time variance department, who are basically these like time cops. Like they're this agency that is like universal, that always deals with like time discrepancies in a universal context, and
like
they've captured him.
Umbrella Academy type thing. Yeah.
And so Owen Wilson looks like the guy who's kind of like who's basically filling him in on all this info, and
like
and what it looks to be is Loki traveling through time and doing different kind of version. Like
there's so much.
This
so much opportunity for this show.
Yeah, and it's obviously taking place in a different timeline where the Avengers
timeline, but is it like if time is just been broken straight off the bat from him taking this?
It's another multiverse scenario, as you said, going from Doctor Strange and going from Spiderman. It's one of those ones where this is taking place in a different reality to most of the MCU. Like it only has the timeline specifically to the first 5 movies of the MCU, and then after Avengers, this is just on its own new plane where he would find out. This
also might tie in a lot of the alternate universes. Yep. And my like big fanboy moment of this is that this is going to set up a new saga. So we just, Kevin Feige even officially announced that from, Iron Man 1 to, we'll call it Far From Home, is the Infinity Saga. Yeah, my hope is just
this is like
next
a pocket
phase
universe on the side.
It's going to be, the time traveling saga, or like whatever they may call it. But then, opening up to potential new villains, which we will go over soon.
It's
and then this is just
see.
that little setup for it. And this is between that and Doctor Strange 2, I say I'm hopeful that they're going to set it up, right? But I know they are. Like, it's Marvel, the perfect storytellers.
And which is another thing as well, when it comes to time travel and time travel discrepancies. We have a character, which we'll go into a little bit later, but we have a character who's going to be the main villain of Ant-Man 3. Quantumania. Yet again, another one of those titles that just opens up a huge big, like Quantumania, like obviously the quantum realm we saw in the Ant-Man 2 when he's in the quantum realm, that there's like a little bubble in the background of one of the shots where there's like a city in that quantum realm.
Oh yeah.
And we believe that that's potentially where Kang might be from, or like might have emerged from. He could show up in this show too if there's something to do with time discrepancy.
Yeah, that's
basically what he's predicated around. Is his character is very time travel based, timeline based. Like he's very, he is kind of like the time cop.
So yeah, needless to say that there's so much potential.
And it's said as well
what Loki's going to be.
Feige said this is going to be a crime thriller is the genre, which is something I'm interested to see where they go with this one too. Disney Plus series, I believe it's going to be, 8 episodes.
Yep.
Very much looking forward to that. I can't wait.
So is it going to be another WandaVision where it can be watched episode after episode, or is it going to be another one that we can just...
I don't know. I feel like WandaVision is a little more ambitious in the way that, the direction they were going, whereas this one seems to be like, yep, everyone loves Loki. Let's give him his own... let's give us the Loki that everyone kind of fell in love with, which was the one from Avengers. Like obviously everyone,
still just about everyone's favorite MCU villain. Yeah,
you can never have enough Loki. So, moving on, we have another Disney Plus show, What If, animated. It is voiced by,
narrated by
Jeffrey Wright. You'd know him from such shows as...
well, he's in Hunger Games. Yep. He's like the really dorky guy with the wire.
Yep. So
that's pretty much all I can say.
He is actually playing Uatu the Watcher, who is a character from the Marvel Comics, who is potentially shown in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 as one of the Watchers who is communicating with Stan Lee, the spaceman, in that little is
Stan
it
Lee,
like a post-credit scene?
Shout out to Stan Lee. Thank you for all this.
But Uatu is kind of like this all-seeing alien being who has to watch all of the events unfold from Earth, and it's universal story, I guess. And he's not allowed to intervene, but he is basically watching everything significant happen on Earth and our universal sector, if that makes sense. And there's a watcher for every sector of the universe, and all they're tasked to do is they're basically immortal, and all they do is just observe the history of.
So you pretty much just get cable TV.
Yeah, pretty much.
Told to watch that.
So the idea of this show is that it's going to be alternate versions and realities of stories that we already know from the MCU, right? So it's like, what if Captain America or Steve Rogers didn't become the super soldier? What if Peggy Carter was the super soldier? And what if Captain America was, just some guy? What if instead of taking, what's his name? Fucking Star-Lord away as a child, they take T'Challa from Black Panther and he becomes Star-Lord.
Which will be Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, so
his last addition to the MCU.
It was his last performance.
He did actually manage to do all his recording before he passed away. So yeah, another good reason to look forward to this. So this one is obviously non-canon. It's just nothing to take too seriously.
Still multiversal, as we said.
It's just cool to it's what if. It's literally just what if.
Well, they could use some of these storylines. They could use some of these characters. These what if scenarios could potentially, if they have enough traction and enough popularity, they could show up in other version, maybe something from this what if characters, like say for instance, like T'Challa, or no, maybe not T'Challa, but we have Marvel Zombies, we have, as you said, Peggy Carter, Captain America. She might show up in some facet of the multiverse later on.
Yeah. Any excuse to bring Bay back.
Yeah.
Oof.
I know that's a fan favorite of yours. A lot to look forward to there. I think that's one of those ones that's just going to be a lot of fun for kids, especially who know these characters, who know the lore, they know the fucking, they know everything about these characters, and to see them portrayed in a different light and in a different perspective, a different story. I wonder if this show is going to have an overall narrative, if it's just going to be alternate realities or all of these are going to tie in together.
Is there a reason?
Yeah, is there an overarching story that's going to play out across all of these different episodes?
So moving on.
That's Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi.
Filmed in Australia, we know that much. It is based on a Chinese superhero. Well, not a superhero, kind of like a Chinese hero who's basically like a master of Kung Fu. I think he has pretty much the most extraordinary martial arts capabilities on the planet.
Yep.
That I'm aware of in the MCU or in this timeline of movies. It is called Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and we know that Ten Rings does play into the origin of Iron Man, the Mandarin. So it could be.
Let's just hope it's a much better interpretation of the Mandarin compared to.
Yeah. So we've already heard from one of the Marvel one-shots that they put on, I guess, one of the special features. I think it was the special features of Iron Man 3. There's a one-shot, which is basically what Marvel have as a little 5-minute video in the special features of Ben Kingsley's character going to jail for obviously, impersonating this Mandarin. Jail. And when he's in jail, he becomes like a celebrity there. And he basically is confronted by the agency who work for the actual Mandarin. And the Mandarin has actually ordered a hit on him for basically tarnishing his name.
Yep.
And that was basically Marvel's way of retconning their dumb idea to do this version of the Mandarin.
Control Z for what they did.
Yeah, so that was the dumbest version of Mandarin they could have done. Everyone hated it, and this is their way of, okay, so we'll send that version of Mandarin to jail, and the real Mandarin will come and confront him and try to murder him in jail.
And also will be the main,
as we said,
antagonist of this Shang-Chi movie.
Yep.
So straight off the bat, a really solid cast, all very well-known Asian actors. it's pretty much just crazy
Simu
rich
Liu,
Asians.
what was it? Simu Liu, I believe we called, and Michelle Yu.
Yeah.
You said that she was in Guardians 2, I think.
Guardians 2. She played one of the Ravengers, so that's going to be a little bit hard to.
I think she would have been in enough makeup where you wouldn't notice.
Yeah, Marvel got some splaining to do, but obviously they're splaining to do. But there are. Yeah.
I look forward to this. As I said, I like these like.
This could be just one of those ones that fly under the radar as well. I like
kung fu movies, dude. I'm a big fan of like Enter the Dragon, of those like old classic, kung fu martial artsy films, and this is supposedly meant to be the most martial arts based choreographed film. So I've heard that lots of different UFC fighters have been called in to help choreograph fight sequences in this. I know Shang-Chi's character is basically known in the comics as the guy who trained Spiderman in martial arts, a guy who's known for,
something to do with him and Iron Fist as well. Like
maybe,
I think he can easily defeat like Iron Fist. Like that's how
I'm going to assume that this is going to be Marvel's apology for the show Iron Fist, and basically like show like, hey, this is how this show should have actually played out.
So yeah, like the good thing about that, not too many high hopes, but then Marvel have had plenty of movies
where we've not thought much of what a
flying under the radar, but let's go watch this movie, and it ends up being
really
fantastic. Good. Guardians of the Galaxy being.
I have a funny feeling they're going to make this more of a comedy for some reason. I don't know that for a fact. I have a feeling they're going to make this a way of, like, as you said, like Crazy Rich Asians kind of, like a funny, like they're going to have to appeal to the audience some way. And I do think that humor is going to be a big part of this. So,
but also, who like you just said, who doesn't want to just go see an awesome like kung fu and martial arts movie?
Yeah,
so
but in the MCU, which means the fight scenes are going to be at the the top level of cinema. I hope.
Yeah, lots to look forward to.
As I said, like they really tie in a great story with this Mandarin and the 10 rings and stuff like that.
Just
high hopes. It's not on top of my list to watch, but
let's move on. Next Disney Plus show announced is Ms. Marvel.
Yes.
So
2022 release.
So if anyone has played the Avengers game that was released, I think mid last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Told a really good story of how Ms. Marvel is introduced into the MCU. She actually meets the Avengers as a fan.
So she's a young Pakistani girl.
Yes.
And she does end up kind of getting her abilities through...
Classic, explosion of some kind of
it was like
elemental thing of just...
She's basically explained to be an inhuman. So we... Obviously... people in this Marvel universe don't know what Inhumans are. Like comic fans know what that means. They're just kind of like mutants mutated by a specific mist, right? So they're Inhumans. They're born Inhumans, but they're basically normal people. And then when they're exposed to this kind of like radioactive mist from like a particular source called Terrigen, they mutate into like a what do you want to call it? Like a cocoon or like some sort of like chrysalis thing, and then they emerge from it as like a mutated
with
being.
some kind of power. So, and then Miss Marvel's is one of that. She's pretty much Mr. Fantastic. She's stretchy, and
I can't believe they're going to introduce Ms. Marvel before Mr. Fantastic. That does my head in.
I know that's
kind of
somewhat frustrating. Let's just hope that
But there
might be a thing of learning how to perfect that.
Are we going to get the vibe that this is going to be very kind of like Young Avengers based? Like they are kind of setting up this narrative of Young Avengers as we go across. Like as we'll talk about with a few of these extra shows.
Passing the mantle, for sure.
There are some young talent and a lot of young characters in the Avengers world who are being set up to probably eventually all team up together as like a young... Excuse me. That sucked the fucking wind right out of me, dude. Oh my god. I don't know, dude. I was gonna say lungs just kind of imploded on me for a second.
Paramedic on standby.
It's like someone just got a fucking vacuum and just sucked me sideways, dude.
Sucked me sideways. Oh my god. Your voice just changed gear, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. Dude.
Like what you did earlier.
It was like an inward fart from the fucking...
Anyway, back to what
excuse me, Kamala Khan. where were we? I lost track, right? Lost track. Okay, so we'll move along with these. So Kamala Khan is her name. Pakistani young girl.
This would be a very
politically correct film. We'll say that.
Yeah, I was literally just about to say it's going to be a very PC. Like it's all like Pakistani or like Middle
LGBTQ.
Eastern, as in like Middle Eastern directors, producers, all like they're just palming it off like. And I'm sure they'll do like.
I think
do it justice because there's a good story already there with, like I was saying, the Avengers game. Well, so people already got some kind of a following towards
the
Ms.
story
Marvel.
Been told in the comic, which is
that too.
It was a very popular comic in the last, say, 10, 15 years, where it
purely
really
because
because
of the LGBT, QT,
very diverse.
LMNOP. So like, yeah, good. You know, it
ties directly, as we noted, it ties directly into Captain Marvel too.
Because it's noted that her favorite superhero is Captain Marvel,
which is why she gets the name Ms. Marvel. Like she has obviously a huge connection to her as a hero.
So I'm sure they'll do that justice, and I'm keen to see where they go with that. But it's not on top of my list. I'll say that.
And neither is Captain Marvel 2, right?
Speaking of,
so. Probably one of my least favorite Marvel movies of the last ever was Captain Marvel. I hated it. I'm not writing this movie off as being better, but I just think I don't care, right? Like I don't know. You can tell by the tone of my voice, I'm not as excited for this project. Nothing in Captain Marvel 1 really made me any excited to see any future projects from this.
Marvel have had a really good run, and their one where they somewhat hit the wall, I'll say, is Captain Marvel.
We know that this Captain Marvel 2 has Ms. Marvel will be in it. Her character will be in it. We know that Monica Rambeau, who was a little girl in the first Captain Marvel movie, it will be grown up.
She'll be a main character. She's also been making appearances in WandaVision as well.
So I don't think. Do we know that already? Like, has she introduced herself as Monica, or is that just...
No,
it's the same actress. We know that it's the same actress, right? So people have already picked that.
And it's kind of been somewhat maybe like the saving grace, because she was the one that Wanda actually leaned towards for helping guidance in that episode. So she's obviously going to be... maybe some ties into Sword, and maybe some,
Yeah.
So
I think she's actually a member of Sword.
I think the big thing for Captain Marvel 2 will be to set up, the actual Sword Academy, or like the Sword
really flesh it out,
people, as well as so much
potentially more cosmic villains could be set up.
That's the word I'm thinking of. Cosmic. So Nova, I think, is the main one.
She was a huge big part of,
Warlock.
not that I liked it, but she was a big part of like the end of Endgame. Like she kind of just came in and just kind of MacGuffined the whole plot. Where
I well and truly hope that they just
try to put her over.
Yeah, just give her character a little bit more justice. So
flesh her out.
Yeah. So, and then we'll talk about it later. We'll talk about the potential of the Skrulls and the Secret Invasion later on, because I think
they might even set up the blueprint of that.
Either they set up, or they they bounce off what happens in the Secret Invasion series. Like, there's a lot of potential there. I just hope they do it justice, because I really didn't give two shits when the first Captain Marvel came out. Like, you kind of, enjoyed Ben Mendelsohn's character in the first one of Talos.
Meh.
But,
for me. Nothing in that
something like the
out.
Skrulls, like, in comics, even in the Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon series.
Love that.
Great depiction of the Skrulls, and how much of the
Secret Invasion was a huge deal
on Marvel Universe.
We'll come back to it, but we have one cosmic movie. We're moving on to another one as well, Eternals. This is a huge...
I am keen for this movie.
It's a huge deal with this Eternals, because they were reaching for those grapes way back with Guardians of the Galaxy. This one is even plucking further into the mythos
Guardians
of
on
Marvel.
roids, I reckon.
Yeah, it is. That's pretty much it.
But also, there is a lot of hope going into this. So, I went into Guardians with just, what is this movie going to be like? There's a raccoon and a tree. Yeah. What's this going to be like? Eternals and it ends up, soft spot. Guardians is easily one of my favorite MCU movies.
Yeah, and that's exactly what Eternals could be too. We know Marvel can pull something like this off. It's just, it's got a great cast. It's just, I don't think many people are really aware of these
just
characters.
Just off the bat, we've got Angelina Jolie, we've got Salma Hayek, we've got...
what's his name? Rob Stark,
and then...
that guy. Richard something. What's the Indian fella's name? We got fucking jacked.
Yes.
Majani.
Oh yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Producer Doodle. But also, old mate, Jon Snow has been cast as Black Knight.
Oh, yeah, it is true. He's and Rob, as I said, Rob Stark is playing.
So it's pretty much just Game of Thrones in space. But then
Icarus, Ajak, we've got as Salma Hayek.
Yeah.
That's a great cast.
It's just, yeah, and you just know that with that kind of cast, it's just going to be fantastic chemistry between everyone. Like, Angelina Jolie, I'm keen to see in a superhero role as well, like, just to see how that goes.
Athena.
So, yeah, needless to say, I'm keen for this movie. And then...
the premise of this is supposed to be, these guys are kind of like the predating human civilization on Earth. So these guys are kind of like cosmic entities that are spawned from, what are they called? The Celestials. Who we've seen is basically what Star-Lord was.
So these guys are probably going to be the first ever superheroes.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, the Celestials were shown in Guardians. We know that, what's his name? The dad, whose name I've forgotten me, Ego was a Celestial, and then Star-Lord was a child of Ego. These guys are all basically an entire race of super beings that were born from Celestial DNA, I believe, or something along the lines with that. So it's basically going to be a Marvel
and there's gonna
building block film where it's going to kind of set up everything that's going to happen in this universe will be kind of all alluded to from this.
There's going to be so many connections. Just going to be like, oh, no way, like, how did that tie to that?
Another thing,
there's going to be a lot of awesome tie-ins, and I'm keen for it.
Something that has not been, I know they announced it years ago now, but they haven't said any casting. They haven't shown anything in the trailer or whatever. But supposedly Hercules is going to be in this too, like Marvel's Hercules. And I kind of want to know what they're going to go with that, because like Hercules is like an Avenger. He's kind of like a big deal in the comics for a lot of different storylines and stuff.
Yeah, he takes on a lot of like the
I wonder if Hercules and Thor will ever cross paths. That'd be fun.
Exactly. So much potential. So needless to say, like we haven't got much, like a little bit of a synopsis for this movie, but there's not much to go off. But
as I said, the figurines are all out for this too.
Yeah, I don't need much of a thing to go off, because I have a feeling this movie's going to be sick.
Guardians, we had hardly any information. We just went in being like, Marvel.